Hello there, and welcome to yet another episode of Recliner Wrestling Review. I'm your host, Jared Isaacs, and let's see if we can't bring in our other host with us.
Hey,
Oh, yes, there it is. John Reese. John, how you doing today, bud?
I'm wonderful. How are you? I love the way you do that with the microphone.
Oh, thank you.
Just that
So I need to
echo.
get a rig to bring it down
I,
Kennedy style. That's all
oh,
I need. Yes, it
excellent.
will happen. It will happen.
I would love that.
All right, so John, you want to tell them what we're tackling today?
We are going to talk about the top 10 debuts in wrestling. So we're talking first time in a new company, not like a comeback, not a re-debut, first time in a new company. Top 10 list from both of us, along with some honorable mentions.
Yes, for sure. Actually, and as a spoiler alert, more honorable mentions than people that have made the list probably. So, but there's been a lot of good ones, a lot of ones that several that made a great impression. So
Some
they
that make a
deserve to be.
shocking impression.
Mm, yes, we'll see who makes the list, who does not. I wanted to talk about what it is that makes a great debut. Let me scoot over here. So these are just some things that I jotted down, and you would have thought that I would have ran past you before the show, but I did not. So we will see if you agree or disagree with these. And since in the vein of a top 10 list, since that's what we're doing, I created 10. Not that they're in any order, but they kind of are. So things that make a debut is, to me, the element of surprise.
Surprise.
And yes, and they know who we are now. Okay, getting all the kinks worked out in these beginning episodes. It's all good. Crowd reaction. I think that plays a big part.
Oh, for sure.
Anticipation. A lot of these are pretty self-explanatory, so I'll just continue to list them. Knowledge of who it is. You can't pop for it if you don't know who it is and why they are making a debut. Entrance, the physicality. So, like if they have an opening match or something as a debut, or if they do a run in or something. Verbal skills, if they cut a promo. Their overall physique, how they look. The build up or video packages, vignettes, if you will. And number 10, the overall impressiveness. So, yeah, that's kind of what I thought makes a great debut.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great little top 10 there.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it for the show. Thank you guys for joining us.
Shortest episode yet.
Yes, indeed. All right. I think we ought to just jump right into it. I mean, we've got the way that we're going to do this is we've both got our top 10 list individually. So we're just going to take number 10 and number 10 and continue down the list that way. And so, John, we'll be starting with you today.
Okay. For my number 10.
Let me see here. There we go.
Oh, that's fancy.
Yeah.
Get your tea, get your crumpets, get your crackers. My number 10, I went with Paige. Paige debuted April 7th, 2014. The day after WrestleMania, so you had that hot crowd there. So she got a great reaction. WrestleMania crowd always knows who the people in NXT are, who the indie people are. It's always a hot crowd. Usually, a lot of out-of-town fans stay over after WrestleMania for that Monday after, and
Right.
it's known as a Raw that usually has some good surprises. It's kind of a reset, kick off a new beginning. And with Paige's debut, she came out and she beat AJ Lee and won the women's Divas title, excuse me, at the time. Yeah. And I just thought it was really cool. She got a great reaction from the crowd, the shock of her being there, and the fact that she beat AJ.
Yes, the shock of the winning
quick.
the title. Yeah, on the first night. Yeah. And like you said, that's after Mania. That's after Mania 30, by the way. AJ Lee slaps Paige when she comes down. You know, Paige was congratulatory about her victory, and AJ Lee turns around and slaps her, and then issues a challenge, and Paige does the biggest upset in the women's division to that date. That was a massive moment.
and it really kind of just put Paige on everyone's radar. Like any like fan that's following NXT or the Indies, like they knew Paige. But to introduce her to the main audience, the casual viewer that way, just put her on the map and made her an instant star. So
For sure.
I went with 10 Paige.
Very
And,
good.
and do you agree? Was she on your list?
Well, I won't say if these people are on my list or not, but I will tell you that she's worthy of being on the list.
Okay.
So, but I will also interrupt and say that you might have ulterior motives for voting for her. Just saying.
Beautiful young lady.
She made quite an impression on a young John Reese. And we will leave it at that.
I'm a fan.
Yes, indeed. All right. So let's see what we've got here. So here's my top 10. Coming at number 10 for me, as you know, as I've said before too, as a precursor to all of this, I grew up like a WWE loyalist. So very rarely did I venture out. Like I kind of had feelers out to know who's who and what's what, but I never like really did a deep dive on a lot of people or a lot of angles or anything if it wasn't WWE related. But this person I did keep up with and I was always impressed with. So whenever they made the jump, you quit it. When they made the jump, I popped big time for it. So let's see who I've got for number 10. Awesome Kong to AEW. Her coming into WWE was cool as Karma during the Rumble, but just the entrance that she got from Brandy Rhodes, you know, where she says she's not looking for a great match, she's looking for an awesome match, and then, you know, cue the music, and I was like, oh my god! As soon as she said the word "awesome," by the way, as it was happening in real time, I immediately knew who it was, and I was like, oh, this is freaking awesome. And yeah, it was really cool. So yeah, she debuted at Double or Nothing from AEW on May 25th of 2019, and she was a surprise entrant in the women's triple threat match. And like I said, Brandy Rhodes had came out, and you know everybody thought she was going to insert herself in the match, and then she swerved us, bro. So yeah, that's who made my number 10 spot.
Yeah, great pick. I wish she would have stuck around longer in AEW.
Same.
And I hope she isn't done with pro wrestling and comes back at some point.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So supposedly kind of the skinny on her, if you will, is she left to be able to go and do another episode of or another season of Glow. But because of the pandemic, it gets pushed back and stuff. So she's kind of in flux with that. But yeah, I think she would come back. And I also part of the reason why this is she's at number 10 and not higher, because I really like Awesome Kong a lot. But the fact that they started doing the program with her and Brandy, you know, where she's cutting the hair and all that kind of stuff, and I was like, okay, this is weird, but okay, we'll see where it goes. And it kind of went almost too long, and I was like, this needs to go somewhere quick. And then all of a sudden it was done. So I'm like, well, if you knew she was leaving to go and film, why even start a storyline in a faction? Like, that just didn't make sense. So
I loved the name Nightmare Collective. I just thought that was a cool name.
For sure. Yeah. And not only a cool name, but instant story with the name. Like, you get why it's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a good one.
Good. Cool deal. So yeah, let's see who you've got for your number 9.
Number 9, I went with the Beast, Brock Lesnar. And he shows up. I got March 18th, 2002. Does that sound accurate?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. And in my memory, I had him destroying the Hardy Boys first thing when he debuts, and it's not. I went back and looked just to be sure, and it was Spike, Al Snow, and Maven, and he just. Yep. So I mean, it was memorable the way he was just going out there killing people, and just like shocking, destroyed, death, and he's got Paul Heyman with him, so he made an impact right away.
Big time.
but I just remember thinking, this guy is huge. Everyone was just shocked, like, oh, this guy's a monster. He's going to be a big deal. The
Yeah.
next big thing is they
Exactly.
dumped him. And
Yep.
what I say, he debuted in March. He's WWE champion by August.
Right.
It's crazy. Strap
Yeah.
it rocket to him.
And he was
So
what, 21, 22, maybe 23, somewhere
I
in
thought it
there,
was like 23 or 24, something like that.
maybe early
Um,
20s. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. But awesome debut, and just the impact he had on the business after that. I mean, he's Brock. He's awesome.
yeah, for sure. So yeah, he was obviously a call up from OVW, where he was had been training for a while. And actually, I don't know how much backstory you know about this, but Vince wanted him up ASAP, and Jim's like, no, we gotta, not just because we want to do it right, but like he's a big dude and he doesn't have enough time under his belt, and he's very liable to hurt somebody. As
Is
much
this
as you want him,
Jim Ross or Jim Cornette?
Jim Ross.
Okay.
Jim Ross put the brakes on it. Yeah. Now Corny was running OVW and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Corny didn't want, I mean, his prized possession taken from him. But I mean, that's the name of the game too. Yeah. But yeah. So going off of what you said, yeah. So we've got a hardcore match, if you will, and Brock comes through the people over the barricade. And Al Snow is the first one he attacks and gives him a spine buster into a trash can, and with so much force. I'm like, man, you talk like, and as our show goes on, like people will understand, like that's what I really get fired up about, is people with fire and passion. And like instantly, I was like, oh my god, I'm on board with this guy. Just the physical, like all the stuff that he would do, all this kind of stuff. I'm like, oh man, what a beast.
Well,
so yeah, then he swings.
I say, just talking about your top 10 list of what makes a good entrance or a good debut. I mean, he's got the look, he's got the physicality. It's a surprise entrant, like run in, like it's all there.
It is. The only thing that's missing, and the only thing that's missing, in my opinion, from this is the fact that he didn't have music or anything, and that's a me thing, and I'm cool with that. But like to me, having that impact of like the music and stuff, like where you check every box kind of thing. That was the only box that didn't get checked, but it still worked. It was still massively impactful. So yeah, spine buster to Al Snow, turns around and gives Maven a F5. And if you ever get a chance to rewatch this and really try to watch Brock Lesnar's head. So he has him up for the F5. Oops. And as he does a swing around and fall back kind of thing, Brock's head like slams against the mat so hard, and he like does like this, and I'm like, oh my god. And like people are just going ape like crazy. And as you said too, of course, with Paul Heyman, so then Spike on the top turnbuckle tries to do some kind of top turnbuckle-y move. Brock catches him, and then actually Spike, tries to go down and help him first, and Brock's like, lifts him back up. JR, covers and says, Spike Dudley trying to do a Hurricane Rana. I don't think that's going to work. So anyway, so then you hear Paul Heyman, up and down. And so he's like just, power bombing the heck out of Spike Dudley. And I was like, oh man, what an entrance. What
Poor
a debut.
Spike.
Yeah.
Poor Spike.
And what's funny too, again, we talked about like how much we know about the business and stuff. As I rewatched that, so it happens 3 times that he goes up and down, and after the third one, you can definitely see Spike go, okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, no, it's enough. So yeah, massively impactful, very good pick. Yeah, there you go. I've even noted too, as you can see, where they're debuting to, because we may or may not have other places in the future on our list, so we'll see. All right, so for me, I guess I'm up next on my number 9 spot. This person, to me, like if you could create a wrestler on a video game, this was like the perfect wrestler to me. Yeah. So, do you have any ideas? Like I see you just put your thinking cap on.
Yeah.
Like Lanny Poffo.
Are you gonna say like Lex Luger?
Oh, okay.
No. I have no clue.
Coming in at number 9 for Jared is Alistair Black. Yes, indeed. The whole just the macabre and the whole look, with the candles and the rising up, and it just, man, tens all around for me. As a matter of fact, up until probably the last 6 months or so, that was my default ringtone on my phone.
Okay. And
But yeah.
I'll be honest, I don't even remember his debut.
Oh, sad.
Was it at a takeover?
It was at NXT Takeover in Orlando on
Okay.
April 1st of 2017, and it was a great match. So if you don't remember it, it is 100% worth watching because it was him against Andrade Cien Almas, and it was a fantastic match. So, like, again, this is exactly what I was saying that Brock didn't have, like the massive entrance and the there's a term I'm trying to think of and I can't think of, the treatment. He got the treatment. So I was sold before he even entered the ring, and then when he does the flip over the ring, sits down, I'm like, oh my god! And then when he starts, his wrestling style with the kickboxing and stuff, I'm like, I want merch. I want, whatever it takes. Like I want this guy like to stick around. So yeah.
Has he gotten that merch yet?
Has what?
Has he gotten that merch?
I mean, he's had merch.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know currently what he's got, but that's maybe because I don't watch it anymore.
Yeah, it's been 3 years and he's had 3 action figures. I feel like he should have a lot more.
Do they usually have more than just one a year?
Depends who you are, but yeah,
that's fair. I'm sure. Well, yeah, we'll have plenty of wrestling figure episodes, I'm sure. So let's see here. Okay, yes, Aleister Black, and at number 9.
Okay.
All right. So
I'm a little surprised at that one, but sure.
Are you really?
Yeah.
That's fair. I will tell you that my 9 and 10 spot fought for one of my honorable mentions, and I will tell you which one would have got that spot when we get to the honorable mentions.
Okay.
So, all right. I think you're up next for your number 8.
All right, making the jump from WWE to TNA, Christian Cage, Captain Charisma.
Yes.
This would have been at Genesis 2005. Feels so long ago because it's been 15 years.
It's nuts.
But
and
Christian,
that's kind of like the middle of the Ruthless Aggression era too. Where WWE was still hot, and this was a massive jump for TNA. This is a big get.
Oh, for sure. I felt like Christian was that mid-carder who was just on fire. The fans were finally catching on to him. He was getting a better reaction than he ever had. He had a heater with him of Tomko, which was fine. But the dude was just killing it on the mic. He did a little program with Cena, and Cena kind of buried him on the mic, and he was out of town shortly after that. To TNA, and at the Genesis pay-per-view, Dixie Carter was hyping it up as, "Hey, we've got the biggest acquisition in TNA history.
Yes.
It's time," and they pull him out mid-show, and they've got the countdown a la Jericho. I loved, and he had awesome new music.
Right.
And talk about the treatment. I mean,
yes.
I loved his TNA music.
Oh, yeah. Do you remember why they did the countdown?
That I don't know.
Okay, so obviously, I'll read what I have written down as far as my notes. So, yes, you're correct that on November 13th of 2005, he debuts at Genesis as Christian Cage, which was his name previous to joining WWE, or F, actually. He announced his intentions to win the NWA title, which at that time was held by Jeff Jarrett. But he rejected to join Scott D'Amore's faction, Team Canada. So they're teasing some Canadian that was the big signing, and so they were teasing it could have been Jericho.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he comes out, he cuts a little promo, like you said. Scott D'Amore and Bobby Roode come out. They hand him the T-shirt, and Christian's like, "The size is right, but I got to think on it a little."
Right.
And then later on in the main event, Christian ends up rejecting them, and they brawl, and Christian just gets that babyface cheer at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yep.
For me, I put this on my list because at the time he was so hot, just on fire, and for him to jump to TNA like that, TNA has always been a company of peaks and valleys, I feel like.
Yes.
And this I felt like was one of those peaks where, oh my gosh, Christian's there now, and then he wins the world title for the first time, and
you felt like you were on the ride back up to the top of the mountain.
Yeah, it was a great time. I really enjoyed that. It was at the end of 2005, towards the end, but I felt like 2006 was just an awesome year for wrestling in general, like for me anyway. Yep. And I think Christian and TNA was a part of making TNA special. So that's why it made my list as a debut in a new company, or not new really, but Christian being a new guy to that place.
Right.
I loved it.
If I could draw a comparison, so a lot of people right now currently are talking about AEW getting a lot of WWE leftovers, if you will, but they're not just like where it was WCW top tier, Hogan, Macho, that kind of stuff. It's the people that feel like they were suppressed by the powers that be in WWE, and then they go to AEW. So to me, Christian falls into that category. In my opinion, Christian is very much almost in the same category, if you will, as Mankind, where if you didn't have Austin and The Rock, Mankind and Taker and Kane, like these would have been your top names. But because you had also the Hardy Boys and also the Dudley Boys, and each team like had a standout member, and Christian wasn't one of those. But in retrospect and looking back, like you talk about your workhorse, it was Christian.
That dude was a bumping machine.
Oh my god, dude. It was nuts. And it's still to this day, it blows me away. It wasn't until, way late in his run that I was like, oh, he's the one taking all the bumps and taking all the, he's putting in the work.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Say, talk about guys being held down. I felt like Christian broke through that glass ceiling in WWE, and they put a new ceiling on top of him. And they're just like, no,
I would agree exactly. I would agree exactly. He broke through it with the whole treatment, the Randy Orton shower of pyro and stuff, broke through, and then Edge getting over as much as Edge did, that was your glass ceiling. And it was like, oh, because they were looked at equally.
But it wasn't even, I felt like for me, because I was a big Christian mark, after the fact, like after Edge, they threw him with Jericho for a while, and they made that work. They did the WrestleMania 20 main event, or not main event, sorry. The WrestleMania 20 match,
right.
and that was cool. And then he kept moving up, and he had that like promo with Austin where he called him the CLB, and that whole thing. It was just like, this guy's getting a reaction, and he just made everything he did work, and I just always loved him.
And he made stuff work for other people without even knowing. Speaking of Steve, of course, famously known that Christian is the one that was responsible for the what.
Yeah. So. Christian in at number 8 for me, debuting in TNA all the way.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Good pick. Okay, so let's see what I've got for my number 8. Interestingly enough, this one almost ties in with my number 9 of Aleister Black. How can you not acknowledge The Undertaker? Yes, indeed. So let's see here, somewhere in my notes. Survivor Series of 1990 on November 22nd. He was introduced as the mystery partner of Ted DiBiase's $1 Million team, managed by, currently he was managed, if you will, The Undertaker was, by Brother Love, but they were on a Brother Love segment. What was his show? Not the Love Machine. It was, I don't know. Anyway, so that's what he debuts on. If I have that, no, I'm mixing Steve Austin's debut. So yeah, he was managed by Brother Love. Yeah. But only for less than a month, because that was, like I said, the end of November. In December is when WWE hires the greatest manager of all time, Paul Bearer. Oh yes, and he is put with Taker in December. So yeah, about a minute into the match there at Survivor Series, Undertaker eliminates Coco Beware with a tombstone, and it was an awkward tombstone too, and more on awkward tombstones later. But yeah, so he does it so close to the rope that like Coco Beware's like feet hit off the ropes and stuff, and it's like really just weird. But yeah, so then he also eliminates Dusty Rhodes, does the Undertaker before being counted out. So.
Is that Polka Dot Dusty?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah. The old dead man.
Yeah. And like Survivor Series feels synonymous with Taker, like in those early years.
Yes.
Now you think of Mania, you think of Taker or Taker Mania.
Big time.
Like early on in his career, I mean the gimmick, Survivor Series, the way they always like built up that show, he felt like, oh, it's Survivor Series Taker. They felt good together.
Teams of 5 fight to survive.
Oh.
Yeah, good stuff. And it was like, how bad can the heel stack the deck against Taker to topple the big monster?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was cyclically come back every year and see how we can top that kind of thing. Like you said, yeah, it's good stuff. Nowadays, however, Survivor Series, in my opinion, shouldn't even be a pay-per-view, but let alone one of the.
It needs it just needs a little love.
It really does. Yeah, it does. But the thing that makes it difficult is there's things around Survivor Series that make, you have to have a really strong singles division and stuff to make people be like, oh, I wonder what would it be like if these two are together on a team. Instead, it's just like so many.
Yeah,
back and
forth the way I just feel like the way they build it up on 3 weeks, 4 weeks notice, it's tough.
Yeah, it really is.
So it's just like they kind of take, hey, who are 5 baby faces, who are 5 heels that aren't doing anything? Let's throw them in a match.
Right, for sure. The reason also I wanted to say this too. The reason that Undertaker is number 8 on my list and not higher, because I'm a huge Undertaker fan, is because the entrance. While yes, he did have music and stuff, and he kind of had the treatment. It was like the lights were on. It was not like the Undertaker that we came to know. It was just completely different. The music hits. There's a gong hit, and immediately he's right out. The character in the ring was fine, but like the entrance that everybody was always in awe of didn't come until later. All right, so we are on to number 7. Let's see here, John. What have
I'm gonna stick with the Survivor Series theme.
Hey, I like it.
7.
I like it.
Yeah, so we're gonna go November 18th, 2012. There is a triple threat main event with Cena, Ryback, and your champion CM Punk. And out come 3 guys from the crowd, the Shield. So I am obviously a huge Seth Rollins fan, and Moxley as well, Ambrose at the time. I didn't know Roman at all previously.
Right, he was the wild card in the whole thing. Yeah,
and so like I'd followed Rollins. What year is this? I said 2012. I'd been a fan of Seth Rollins for 6 years at this point. So I'd seen Rollins wrestle in 2006 at
good old Tyler Black.
Yeah, at an IWA show before he was even in Ring of Honor, and I was like, this guy's awesome. So Rollins, I was big on. Moxley, my experience with him was from Dragon Gate USA and his feud with Jimmy Jacobs. So,
yeah. You hadn't seen any of the CZW stuff or anything?
No, not my cup of tea.
Right, same. That's why I'm not a fan.
I knew he had buzz coming from CZW, but it was Dragon Gate where he got put on the map in my eyes, like where I got to see him, and I knew he was doing stuff with Regal and NXT, so it was really cool to see those 2 guys debut, and they had Roman with them, and I was just like, okay, big WWE guy. We'll see if he's any good. So, but they, tear up the main event, do the triple power bomb, and help Punk keep the title. And the Hounds of Justice are born that night, and off and running from there, where all 3 guys go on to be world champion in their own right. So,
As far as a faction and the purpose of a faction, I would say massively successful. Where every single member, and part of it too, right, is because there's only three, so you're able to focus more. But up to this point, I would argue maybe that, well, from a number standpoint, it would be Nation of Domination, in my opinion, that would be the most successful faction with the most amount of members getting over, kind of thing. Now you can go Brood, where the same kind of thing, at least 2 out of 3 really got over. But
Uh for me, Hart Foundation, but Bret Hart mark. But I mean, yeah, Bret was the only
that's
world
actually a fair
champion.
argument.
Bret was the
Yeah,
only world champion from there. I mean, Nation, you had Farouk, Mark Henry, The Rock, all at some point world champions. Uh, DX is a faction.
D'Lo.
D'Lo, yeah. Oh, D'Lo. DX. I mean, most of those guys were top. Well, Hunter and Sean, top dogs.
Right.
But I mean, the faction, that's another thing. What I think helped the Shield with not only having 3 guys, but having a brand split, being able to separate them. You got me thinking about factions now. I think Evolution has got a big claim for that also.
That's true.
But
Before I forget, because I have forgotten this once, and it was on our first episode where we were doing Truth or Lies. I forgot to mention this, but here's a picture of us meeting D'Lo Brown, and this is like one of my favorite, like behind the scenes, if you will, wrestling memories. So this was right after. There you can see me and Earl Hebner flipping each other off, and we talked about that story. But right there on the stage, as we're turning to walk away out of the behind the curtain kind of thing, I can see D'Lo Brown standing there, and everybody's like, "Oh, he ain't gonna, he's busy. He ain't gonna, do anything. He's too busy." And I was like, "Hey, D'Lo," and like he kind of does this perturbed kind of look, and I'm like, "I recognize." And he does this. He's like, "Okay," and then comes over, and we're able to get a picture with him and stuff, and I mean, even though we didn't really chat or anything, it was a cool moment. So
yeah,
props to D'Lo.
Yeah, nice dude. That's awesome.
Yes, for sure. I meant to mention that in our first episode, and it wasn't until after we wrapped it up, and I was like, no, I forgot D'Lo. How could I?
Yeah.
So yeah.
But yeah, good old D'Lo. Nation of Domination days.
Yes, but so to your point though, yes, Evolution is another strong argument for
but
factions
for
where they all
for a faction of 3 guys WWE had never had on TV. Evolution, you had 2 former world champions there, and you had Randy and Batista. Here with the Shield, you've got 3 guys making their debuts, all going on to have giant mega careers. So I think the Shield has to be on this debut list because it was a surprise, very similar to Brock's. And they made a huge physicality impact, just destroying everybody. And, they were involved in the main event of Survivor Series their first day on the job, on the main roster.
Yes, like you said, interrupting the Cena Ryback and Punk match, and it was Ryback that they ended up doing the triple powerbomb to, and put him through the announcer table, which you can see right behind him there in that picture. But again, another strong impact. But what is always funny to me is to look at them in their debut. Like Dean Ambrose looks just completely different. And I was never a fan of Seth with the side of his head bleached out. In all fairness, at least it was a different look, and he stood out. So there's that, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you remember, speaking of the blonde patch, do you remember what the death of the blonde patch was and what killed it off?
Was it the heel turn?
No. Well, no. I mean, maybe, but no.
To me, it coincided with that, like right around that heel turn. With the J&J and all that, like afterwards.
There was actually something physically that caused him to have to not do it anymore.
Oh,
but,
okay.
And I can't remember who it was that he did this with, or where in the feud it was, but it's where he opens like the Money in the Bank briefcase or whatever, and he opens it up and all that green stuff spits out. Well, it dyed his hair green, and he couldn't get it out. So he's like, well, I guess I'm done with the blonde.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, thank you.
I see, and I wish he'd bring it back. Maybe not.
Maybe not. So, all right. So, the Shield in your number 7 spot. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, so I guess I'm up for my number 7, and spoiler alert, this one has already made the list. Brock Lesnar. Again, we discussed in detail his entrance and his debut, and yeah, just I mean, massively, massively impactful. Um, Brock is one of those people, like just the sheer sight of his physique and stuff, and just he was almost Goldberg like, but amped up even with his facials and with his body language. Like everything he was doing was just like saying, "I'm a big beast. Don't mess with me," kind of thing. So
Goldberg was so hit ya, it's over. But Brock was, I'll hit you all night if I want to. Like,
right.
You're not going anywhere.
Right. Whereas, exactly, with Goldberg, it was almost like skating kind of on that Ultimate Warrior territory of could he go if he had to? Or, like you're saying, Brock, it's obviously he's a machine. So, yeah, he can go as long as he wants to.
And Goldberg with the football background, smash, and Brock with that national wrestling background or NCAA wrestling background. I mean, he's the monster.
Yeah.
Can't stop that.
Without question. Without question. So, yes. Number 7 is Brock Lesnar for me. So, moving right along to number 6.
All right.
All right.
For my number 6, another WWE debut at the Royal Rumble.
Some of the best debuts, by the way, happened at the Rumble.
At number 6 on the list, but number 3 in the Rumble, the phenomenal AJ Styles.
Yes, indeed.
And it was January 29th of 2016. It was just such a surreal moment.
It was January 24th.
Oh, it was 24th? Yep, you're right.
We'll get eaten up in the comments if we get something wrong. So
I can't read my own handwriting. I apologize. But yeah, AJ, it was just one of those things where I was still shocked he left Impact, TNA. He did the New Japan run. He did some ROH dates. And everyone, like, the rumors are flying, like, could he? Will he?
Right.
And this new music hit. And I remember, I can tell you, I hated the music the first time I heard it.
Yeah,
it grew on me, and I love it now. But I was so used to that TNA music.
No. Not a fan.
That's your band's next cover. Make it something
that was
you
a
love.
Fozzy cover. What are you talking about?
Oh, wow. But yeah. But AJ, I just felt like I never thought it was really going to happen.
Same. And like you said, he jumped around to New Japan and ROH, but it really felt like he was almost like The Undertaker and a loyalist at heart, and still cared about the ties to TNA. So after he's done making his, smatterings of appearances, I really was one that felt he's going back to Impact. He's missing it. He's made his point, like, hey, you guys need me, kind of thing.
Pay up.
So yeah. Well, and two, in doing some homework in preparation for the show, everything I kept running across said he was the surprise entrant number 3, and I'm like, number 3? I'm like, you mean 27? Like, I felt like it was so much later, but it wasn't. You're right. So it was Roman Reigns out first, and then Rusev eliminates Rusev, and like just a few seconds to spare, and like you said, like this unknown music, and I'm like, what? And that's even the same cell that Roman has, and it's like, what? And then boom, as soon as
I am phenomenal.
Thing, I'm like, oh, it was so cool. Yeah. Great entrance.
He had a great showing in the Rumble. Doesn't win, but he debuted, and that was the big point. He's in there,
and importantly, and this will be a reoccurring theme through our shows. Did not get buried. A lot of times that happens when people come from other companies. He was able to shine really well for a long time.
Yeah, and he is phenomenal, and he's been killing it for years.
Yep, he had a great showing. Besides the music, the only other negative I have to say was that awful freaking haircut. That soccer mom haircut.
I love that haircut.
Shots fired. Yes. All right. All right, so AJ Styles was your number 6. Let's see what my number 6 was. Well, what do you know? Yes, indeed.
And
Yeah,
to be clear, we made our list separately. This is just
totally. Yeah, yeah. This is not
crazy.
We did not kayfabe this. We are straight up. This is a shoot, brother. Yeah. So interesting. Interesting that we put them both at the same spot. So,
Great choice.
yeah, yeah. How can you go wrong? There we go. Okay. Now we are halfway there. What is your number 5?
Number 5, another Royal Rumble, but not an entrant. He was
Correct.
the mystery opponent for Kurt Angle, January 23rd of the year 2000, Taz. 2 Z's. Watch out.
That's
Um,
right.
And for me,
Hashtag copyright.
yeah. For me, it's just one of those things where you talk about a guy with a cool look. He's got this presence about him. He's got buzz from ECW. Comes out with the towel on. There's smoke
Looks
everywhere.
like a killer, man.
Oh my god, yeah, and he is awesome. And
Yeah.
at this time, Kurt Angle is running his mouth as the new guy. He debuted, I believe, at Survivor Series Angle, and just running his mouth. Nobody will shut this guy up. He's undefeated at this point, and I absolutely love what they did with this. The match doesn't go very long, but it ends with the Taz mission. And Kurt Angle, his initial reaction, it was a choke. It was a choke. I didn't get beat. He choked me. It's illegal. And I loved the whole thing.
And Jerry Lawler kept helping sell that too, and which was the perfect storytelling thing to progress it, because Jerry, obviously, from being a wrestler, would have the insight on what's legal and what's not. And the whole time, Jerry's like, "That's not even legal." Whoa. Yeah. It was good stuff.
But everything about Taz, the black and orange, the way he walked, like that Taz angry walk down the ring, the towel on his head, he was just a bad man, and you knew it. So for me, like, if you're wanting to make a debut, Taz did it, and did it the right way in his hometown at the Garden. I think that was just the way to go with him. What happens with him later? Depression, but they brought him in hot, and that was a cool debut.
Yeah, for sure. And I've got more to say on that, but I will wait, because I will let you know that Taz is also on my list at some point. So there is that.
Okay.
So I will not give any more away than that. Taz comes in at number 5 for John. At number 5 for me, we've got another repeat. Kurt Angle over to TNA.
Not another repeat. I haven't said
Not another
yet.
repeat. Yes. My notes are all mixed up here. There's what I should do with these notes. Okay. Now we're back on track.
So Kurt Angle to TNA. What's the deal?
Yeah. Oops. I shockmastered the list. Sorry. All right. Yeah. So making his first appearance on the list is Kurt Angle. Here's the thing. I loved everything about, like, how he actually makes his debut and stuff. Like the music. It's some of my favorite music, and in fact, now I can't.
And to be clear, you're talking about the TNA debut.
TNA.
Yeah.
Oh man, I wish I could think of her name. In AEW, so her Titantron is like a silver surfer looking girl with hexagon outfit.
Chris Statlander?
No.
Or
she's
Sheeta?
the alien. Sheeta. So she has music that's very similar to the. I can't do it. It's so high I can't do it. But I loved Kurt Angle's music in TNA. I thought it was so cool, completely different from anything WWE or F tried to do with him. The patriotic American kind of shtick. They went totally away from that. the reason why he's not higher on my list is because it was spoiled. Dixie Carter announces that he signed like 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks before he debuts. Now, as much as I love the entrance video,
you got to get people to buy the pay-per-view, though.
Well, and true, but it just, my opinion on that is if they don't buy it this time, they're buying it next time because they missed out.
Okay.
But the video, well, I say Titantron video. That's actually a WWE term. But the Tron video, if you will, spoiled also who it was way too soon. Because obviously, you could tell just by that shot that it's Kurt. So the elements of surprise is missing, and to me, that's a big part of a debut. But it was completely awesome. So that happens on October 19th of 2006 on a episode of Impact, and he comes out and confronts Samoa Joe. And after Joe has refused to relinquish the NWA TNA title that he had stolen from Jeff Jarrett. And so Kurt walks to the ring, and they just have this like massive stare off, and all of a sudden you just see Kurt and he just like headbutts the heck out of Joe. Yeah. Joe, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And so then Olympic Slam, and again it goes back to just the fire, the same as Brock Lesnar. Strap comes down, he's like, yeah. I'm like, oh my God, like goosebumps, like, oh, it's so cool. I'm like, yeah. Yes.
And for me, Dixie announcing it didn't kill it for me. No. Showing him in the video didn't kill it to me because we already knew he was coming out. For me, it was the same thing. It was that headbutt and busting Joe up, going to town. That's what did it for me. I was like, that's awesome. That's great. That's how you make a debut. You've got an instant feud. Did Kurt even talk? I don't remember.
No.
Yeah, didn't even talk.
Right. But didn't even have to say a word. Exact same as Brock. Yeah.
Headbutt, and we're off to the races.
Yep.
Let's see that match. I want Joe versus Angle, and I want it soon, like now.
Right, I want it yesterday. Yeah.
Take my money. I'm buying that pay-per-view.
Yep, for sure. And to that point, I get the Dixie Carter argument of, let people know so that they can buy it, because like you said, like as soon as you see it, you're like, boom.
Yeah, or even just tune in to watch it. You got to watch the debut on Impact, and then it's coming to the pay-per-view. It was great. Yeah.
Well, and keep in mind too, this is 06. So YouTube is just beginning the same year, I believe. So it's not like social media existed and stuff to where they can pump out, for 5 days before the pay-per-view or whatever. Hey, look at what happened. Look what happened. Order your pay-per-view. It's you either watch a show or read the dirt sheets, or you totally miss it. So yeah. All right.
Yeah. Oh wow. So you've got a variety on here going. Good.
I do. Yeah. So far, you've had WWE and TNA, if my notes are correct, and I've got an NXT on there as well. So yeah. All right, so we are ready for your number 4.
All right, and hey yo, in at number 4, Scott Hall. And this is him showing up on Nitro, walking through the crowd, that element of surprise. You know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here.
I'm here. Yeah.
And that line so right there. I literally, oh my God.
In my notes, that is literally written down because it was an extremely iconic line. And of course, the reason it was said is because they're trying to allude, hey, has he jumped ship or has he not? So they didn't want to give a definite answer one way or the other. Plus, they didn't want to get sued.
Yeah, is he invading from the other company? Like,
right?
Why is Razor on my TV here? Like,
right. And other teas that they would say, is you wanted a war, you're gonna get a war, and so you're thinking, oh, he's coming to give a war to WCW, which he is, but not the way that we think it's gonna happen. Yeah. So,
and it just leads to. I mean, that right there, that for me, that's the spark of the Monday Night War.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah. To me, without question. Yeah.
So right there, you're off to the races. Like when they signed Hogan before that, that's cool. But I mean, this is where things start to get really good, and it
Right.
starts to be must see for me.
Yeah, I would agree. So yes, Nitro, May 27th of '96, um, just very good stuff. And then on June 10th of '96 is when Kevin Nash debuts and joins and makes the Outsiders and slams Eric Bischoff through a announcer's table. So it was good stuff.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
whole tap thing, like it was great. And that was the thing, like they legit were cool, and that was way unprecedented for its time. I mean, everybody was like, "You gotta hate me," or I'm a happy baby face. Nobody was like, "Hey, hey," it was cool. It was very refreshing.
Yeah. And
it was
going
also
from
it was a sign of the times too, where things were changing as far as shades of gray. Not only just the attitude, but like literal, like it's cool if you like me or if you don't, if you cheer for me or not. Because we're setting a new trend.
but shifting
Stone Cold.
away from the gimmicks and going
Right.
to
Yes, and
like-
that's actually. So I lost my train of thought mid sentence, so I just kind of came up with something. But yes, so using actual names this is kind of a turning point for that, where they're not gimmick names and stuff. It's we want realism, and that was a big thing for WCW. That was something I actually admired about them.
and the competition
it's stripped away.
The competition just made both shows better.
Yes, I would agree with that. I would agree.
But Scott Hall. That's my pick.
That's fair. Now I will show you. I don't know if you could see this. I've got a little red asterisk next to this, by the way. Do you know why?
You're gonna diamond stud me.
I'm gonna diamond stud you. Yeah. I don't know
That was
about a
diamond
debut.
stud.
This is almost a return, brother.
He wasn't over then.
Oh man. Well, now you tell me. I could have redone this whole list now. Yes. No. It's only worthy of an asterisk. I agree. Because he debuts completely different.
How long was he there? Is the diamond stud?
I should have done better homework. I think 2 years is what I think, but I might be overshooting that.
Yeah.
But I'm wanting to say it was like 90 to 92, but I can't remember for sure. Or maybe it was 92 to 94. I don't know.
I wasn't watching then. It was a debut to me.
I never watched WCW back then, especially way back then. So,
yeah,
no clue. Yeah. Come on. There we go. Scott Hall. So you've got a lot of WWE, TNA, and a WCW. Nice. Well, and to be fair, because my list is similar in that it has a lot of WWE. But WWE is really good about hitting all the marks as far as what we talked about at the top of the show. The entrance, the vignettes, all the build up and the hype. It's hard to beat WWE in that, so it's understandable. However,
my list isn't done. I've got 3 more.
Oh, hey, there you go. That's fair. But speaking of WWE, bit of a surprise, or you might even say that it's surrounded in controversy. In the number 4 spot, we've got Mr. Eric Bischoff.
Yes, yes.
You talk about the element of surprise and the sheer jaw-droppedness. The handshake, but really the hug. I was like, what is happening right now? Like, what? And oh my gosh. It was massively, I've literally got goosebumps right now. So unpredictable. Obviously, so Vince is teasing throughout the first hour of the show. Within this hour, we're gonna announce who the new general manager of Raw is. Just wow. To survive the Monday Night Wars and stuff, and you thought they were done when they got bought out, and it was just like, okay, now it's free reign for WWE. You thought, okay, well, that means Bischoff and anybody in the office of WCW was, might as well have been dead. But to bring in literally the devil incarnate to Vince, I was just flabbergasted.
Yeah.
I will say, and then maybe I've got my order on this wrong because I didn't watch the whole episode of Raw. But did he make, before or after the handshake and the announcement, was he backstage with Booker, and he just goes over and shakes Booker's hand, and Booker's like, "Tell me I didn't just see that." I feel like that was before the announcement, and that might have spoiled it, but I can't remember if that happened sooner, if that happened
Mm,
first, or if it was the other way around. I don't
my
remember.
my
But
memory's fuzzy. Was it even the same night?
and that's entirely possible too, I suppose. Yeah.
Because Bischoff, he's come and gone a few times since then. But
Oh,
that
for sure.
that hug, the handshake and hug, that was a debut.
Oh my God, yeah, big time. I mean, obviously, there's no, well, I mean, physicality in a different nature, but it wasn't like overall impressiveness. It didn't hit those boxes, but I mean, just 10 out of 10 for mind blowedness, if
and,
that's even
and
a term.
I could remember like, oh, it'll be one of these three people, and then Bischoff came out, and I'm like, not even on my radar at that
At
point.
all, right? Yes. Yep.
Crazy.
Yeah. Just, I mean, massive shock factor, massive. Yeah. So I
There
was
it
I
is.
was happy to put him that high up on the list. I thought he earned it.
Very nice. All right, for me, number three.
Here we go, man.
This is an overlapper. You talked about him. That headbutt, Kurt Angle, number three. Yeah, for
Oh,
him jumping
making
to
a second
TNA.
appearance, is he?
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that jump, just going to TNA, and one thing, like, I think you hit all the high points of that debut. But for me, it was the headbutt. But not only that, Kurt was at the top of his game at that point.
Yeah.
In
This
the
is
ring.
him coming off of ECW, correct?
Yeah, in the ring. So, like, nobody could touch him. He was crazy and had just the craziest awesome matches. Uh, mentally, I remember hearing all that stuff at the time. Like, you read all those reports, like, oh, he's
Pills.
banged up, he's not doing well. And I was like, he's going to die in the ring. And then he came out on TNA and he looked great. He was moving
Looked freaking
great.
amazing.
And I kept thinking, he had a little time off and got his head straight. He's going to have some awesome matches. And that TNA schedule at the time, they weren't traveling as much. I was like, this is going to be a good thing for Kurt.
100%. Yeah.
And a great thing for the fans. And he did kill it. He had some awesome matches in TNA. So,
from Kurt's aspect, you can definitely see why it was the right thing to do to sign with TNA. Like you said, the lighter schedule and whatnot.
Yeah.
The other thing that we kind of touched on too, regarding The Undertaker, and I mentioned Survivor Series, and nowadays people don't necessarily fantasy book the way I feel they did like in the 80s and 90s. Like, man, wouldn't it be cool if? However, with Kurt going to TNA, I was like, oh my God, look at all the people, like not even just Samoa Joe that he started with. There was a laundry list of people. I was like, man, I would love to see Kurt Angle go against these people. So it was awesome for that.
Yeah. And get to wrestle names he hasn't worked before, legends like Sting, and then get to work Bobby Roode, who was young and up and coming at the time.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
It really was. Yeah, I thought his TNA run was good too. Based on what we know now in retrospect, with where he was mentally and physically and stuff, all that taken into account, I don't think he tarnished his name at all. In fact, I think he elevated it. And kudos to him for being able to do that.
The only thing I would rebook is I wish he would have come back to WWE a little sooner.
Same. Same.
I think it was great for him to go to TNA and have those awesome matches and work with young people, work with legends. I just wish he would have gone back to the E a little sooner so he could have done a little more at the tail end of his career.
Well, yes, and so I 100% agree. I wish he could have come back to do more, but if you look at it through the lens of somebody maybe like myself or somebody that is 100% WWE loyalist, where he leaves WWE from ECW and is tearing up ECW, everything's aces over there. And then he comes back, makes his big WWE return, and he's like, just can't even move his neck, and just it's like, what happened? Well, if you missed out on what all he did in TNA, it looks like he had a stroke or was in a car accident, or who knows what. But yeah, I'm like you. I wish he would have come back sooner.
Yeah.
So. All right, good stuff. All right. Well, now that we're in our final three here, Yeah, this one, I'm just very surprised I haven't heard you rattle this one off yet. So I'm just gonna go right ahead. My number 3 pick is that's Kane.
Kane.
Oh man, the greatest. So and yes, of course, I'm the biggest mark for Kane and the Undertaker, the whole story. You know, but the thing that I've kind of learned to separate from, and the thing I'm the biggest mark for through all of this is the longevity of the storytelling. The fact that things weren't rushed. You know, we had weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of storytelling. You know, the buildup of oh, Undertaker's got a secret. Oh, and I'll tell the world. You know, and just holding this little, you know, blackmail piece of business over Taker's head. Just so freaking great. And then, you know, when he comes out, the look, the pyro, the everything about him, I'm just like, oh my gosh. You couldn't have made a better opponent for the Undertaker. And then, you know, the fact that Taker doesn't want to touch him. I won't fight my brother. Like, I mean, the story had legs for ages, and it's been proven to stay that way too. So yeah, just I mean, what an entrance. Of course, that was on it was in October 5th of '97 at the Bad Blood in Your House, and that was for the first ever steel cage match. I'm sorry, Hell in a Cell match between Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, and just the again, one of the marks is physicality and the visual of seeing Kane just rip the door off the hinges. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then they do the square off, you know, head to head, nose to nose, and I'm like, that's a big dude, man. Like not just tall, but like big.
Yeah.
And then of course the awkward tombstone that you know we almost have to talk about, where it's like, I mean, I couldn't imagine trying to fight through a mask that's moving as you've got, you know, a 300-pound man in your face. And then you're spun around and you're, you know, the nerves of a debut and the nerves of it's the Undertaker. Don't mess this up. And then where's the hard cam? Which way do I turn? And yeah, but it was so impressive. For almost a different, I mean, physically impressive, yes, but storytellingly impressive. Yeah, I mean, just I'm a big mark for Kane, so I could rattle on, but I won't.
And I haven't watched this back in years, but the door getting ripped off is the thing I remember the most.
Yeah.
Just like, whoa, that dude just ripped the door off. That's cool.
Yeah, very. And yeah, so give us a little behind the scenes here, John. This actually took place in St. Louis, which is where you're from.
St. Louis. This would have been in those dark years where I wasn't watching. So I missed Bad Blood. Yeah, it drives me nuts. So I had been to wrestling shows before that. I've been to wrestling shows after that. I was not in attendance that night, and I know.
Man.
But
now, hang on though, because you said you weren't watching at the time. So when was it you learned, oh man, I missed out? Was it like the next day kind of thing? Like when you started reading stuff? I mean, how did you even find out? Or do you
kids
remember?
at school.
Okay.
Kids at school talking about it, and probably one of my neighbors. And I was like, oh, I guess I'll turn it back on. And I'd say 97. I was 97 and early 98. I was going casually watching Raw and Nitro. But then I didn't get hooked back in until later. But yeah, I don't really remember when I did see it for the first time. But I just remember seeing Kane. The Inferno matches that came in the following, was that months or year? Everyone was talking about those. But yeah.
Yep, for sure.
Great pick.
Just saying, he belongs. 10. Oh.
But it's a good one.
And speaking of like what a great call by Vince too. That's gotta be Kane.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Very iconic, very memorable.
Yep.
And that's how you bring in a new guy. You debut him like that. I mean, repackage him. It really, but
right. Yeah. So, and again, this will be a recurring thing as our show goes on, but I'm a stickler for how to properly book a monster. And this is exactly, I mean, right next to the definition in the book. This is how you do it. You build it up, and it's like, is this the guy that we've been waiting for? That's gotta be okay. Well, cool. Just awesome, awesome.
Get into the whole backstory about him. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and then it gets so convoluted over the years, which is even greater.
How did he become mayor?
Right? And how are you mayor of a county? I don't know. Maybe that's for another show, but
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yes. All right. We're number 2.
Number 2. This one I think might be the most recent on. It's the most recent on my list for sure.
Okay.
It might be for you, but yeah, going to AEW now. Talking Double or Nothing, May 25th, 2019. Is he going to show up? Is he not showing up? What's going to happen? But then through the crowd, Jon Moxley.
Yes.
But yeah, he shows up in all his glory. I see you added the H there. Bold choice.
Oh, maybe I did. Maybe I didn't.
But yeah, Mox.
I might have had to redo half the show before we started.
But yeah, Mox coming in. It was just such a cool thing to see him come out and just watch him attack Kenny Omega and everything that happened. Doing the, I guess they call it the paradigm shift now. Doing that double arm DDT on the poker chips. I just thought it was awesome. Really cool. I guess you had Awesome Kong as well from the show.
Correct.
But yeah, Mox coming in. I just loved everything about this debut. It's like you already had like a big crew in AEW, but now you've got a guy who's just like, I'm done with WWE. I'm not happy here. I want to be happy.
Right.
And he made the jump, and he's led the way for a bunch of guys to follow, and I just loved everything about it. I like coming through the crowd, the music, everything. You show that picture there, he just looks like he's breathing in freedom. Like he's just so happy to be there in front of a live crowd, in front of a bunch of fans that are happy to see him and ready to see what happens next.
That's actually, I'm glad that you said that, breathing in freedom. That really rings with me. Because guess what? I'm not a Jon Moxley fan. I don't like him. I feel like he's a cheap wannabe Stone Cold. I don't like his little mannerisms.
Oh, wow.
Like it's like grossly cartoonish sleaze. I'm just like, nah. I feel like he is you hear people talk about, well, he's trying to play the part of a wrestler, and I feel like he fits that. But when you put that perspective in there, like he's breathing in your eyes, that he's breathing in freedom and stuff. But for me, like he was doing all this kind of stuff, like he was doing that in WWE, and I'm like, okay, well, what's different? You just changed your name, that's it. So that was my perspective.
For me, yeah, I look at him as just taking in that moment and loving every second of it. I felt like WWE, like he was doing like playing a character, playing that role on TV, but he was handcuffed with everything he did. And he's like, I'm going to make the most of it because I'm a professional and try his best to do, his job, even as bad as creative would get. And I think him doing the G1, doing the New Japan, the G1 for them, and then coming to AEW, it's just been a breath of fresh air for him. I've loved everything he's done, and he brings a violence to pro wrestling that not a lot of people do. And
I will say that I'm able to separate. I'm glad that sorry. I'm glad that I'm able to separate the character from the person, and I'm glad that the person is finally happy and feels has gotten the passion back.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And watching him do those hardcore matches, like he's more than just a hardcore guy. He's a hell of a brawler, and he can wrestle. With like he can have a straight up wrestling match, but I think he's got layers to him, and I think we're just seeing more and more of that as time goes on. I love him on top in AEW.
He
Um,
makes a good champion.
I'm excited to see where it goes. I was reading a lot of people thought MJF was going to beat him the other week,
Yeah.
and I don't see it. But
No, you don't see MJF beating John Moxley, or you don't see MJF as a champion.
I don't see MJF beating Moxley.
Fair. I'm like, I
Um,
definitely see him as a champion. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. If he does beat him, I think Mox is going to get it back. Like within a, I just I don't see it. I feel like AEW's doing long term booking, and to me,
especially at the top of the card, to be honest.
top of the card, I think we're going to have a cleaner very soon take that title from Mox.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be off and running with Kenny as the champ. But that's me. So I'm enjoying Moxley's run quite a bit. The stuff with Brody was awesome. The MJF stuff's been entertaining. The stuff with Jericho was cool. So yeah. I like him on top.
Not a fan of the character, but I think he himself makes a good champion. And again, I really appreciate your perspective of, just like seeing the freedom that he's relishing in the moment. So
yeah, and like the emotion he showed at Double or Nothing, it came out like through the screen.
That crowd pop too, man. Like holy cow. Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, Mox was my number 2, and yeah, I know it's about a year ago, but it was pretty epic in my book.
Fair. Okay, so John Moxley is your second pick. That means you've got your top spot left. We shall see how the cookie crumbles. For my number 2,
I think I know.
Okay, I'm gonna let you guess.
I think it's my number 1.
You think so?
I do.
Okay, I won't make you spoil that, but you're wrong.
Okay.
All right. I was well, I'll just say I was very hurt that he was so far down on your list. Not that he was like number 10, but he was way further than he deserved. Coming in for me at number 2 was Taz.
Okay.
That pop, I mean, just oh my god. So
New York crowd, baby. I mean, that was huge.
New York crowd. Again, so this is one that hits all the boxes. Elements of surprise. You know who they are. Physicality. I mean, just boom, boom, boom. Everything. Had an entrance. All this stuff. So again, I don't want to rehash what we've already talked about. But like I had said earlier when you brought it up, there was things that I wanted to say, and so I'll say them now. First of all, again, this is me in the midst of WWE loyalist. I had tunnel vision to a certain extent. However, I did know who he was. I kind of knew, his reputation for human suplex machine, just total bad dude.
Coming out of ECW, he had an aura about him. Like you're like, oh, it's Taz. So he's a killer. Like here he comes.
Right, big time. Exactly, killer. He's just like a fighting machine. And kudos to Paul Heyman for booking that correctly and really establishing his name as that. That being said, I wasn't as familiar as I would become, in later years with him, even further back in his career. But let's see here. So he debuts at Royal Rumble as the undefeated Kurt Angle issues an open challenge to anybody, and I didn't hear it at the beginning, as it happened, but in retrospect and watching it back, like you hear a few people in the crowd, Taz, but it wasn't until like you see the bump and the 13 and stuff, and immediately I'm like, oh my god! And that crowd just, talk about a pop, man.
And they were we didn't talk about this earlier. They were teasing that 13 with the tattoo, flashing on the screen in weeks prior, like leading up to Rumble. But it was just pop, and that was it.
I had forgotten completely about that. Yeah.
So like there was a little buzz in the air.
Oh, for sure, because
people were like, I know that tattoo.
So much so that people are talking about it, and WWE on their website actually put out that it is not going to be Taz, in the prehistoric days, if you will, of the WWE website, the WWF website. They had to put out, hey, it's not Taz, and then it was totally Taz. So I want to ask you, do you know a lot of the story behind this debut? Okay.
Nope.
I will walk you through it at a brisk
But
pace.
but I,
So
all I know is it's a big deal because it's Taz's first time at the Garden, and being a New York guy, like
I can't imagine what that meant for
super
him.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So bump 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 bump, the music hits, and all of a sudden, and you see this, and I'm just like, oh my god! Like again, the whole look, the whole thing. Immediately, I know who Taz is. If you don't know who Taz is, you know who Taz is. Just based on the way he carries himself, just like you said, the look, the towel, everything, the music. I mean, it all is right on track with where it needs to be. But as soon as that crowd pops, Taz has been on record as saying, "I knew I was done. I knew I was effed," because he was not designed to be that over. He was designed to be a mid card guy for them and maybe build himself up, but obviously he would never be Stone Cold level or anything like that. So
Yeah.
he knew in his mind, and Jim Ross has been on record on a counter argument. That's just wrestler like getting in your own head kind of thing. And that it really wasn't true. But Taz believes that it was true, that he got over way too hard. Because, and to be fair to Taz's thought on that, WWE is trying to push Kurt Angle hard. He's undefeated. He's been he's their only Olympic competitor to be in WWE. So they're giving Kurt the ultimate treatment. So yeah, he thought he was screwed from the get go before he even makes it in the ring. And then they have what I think is a great match. But then I chose this picture for a reason. This is the suplex in Taz's mind that completely buried Taz, and in the minds of a lot of people, as a matter of fact. So it's a botched spot, if you want to call it that. Kurt tries to jump and help out Taz to do the move. Taz is not used to this and doesn't care for that. He'd rather be in control 100%. He's physically capable of lifting him up. So it kind of looks to the people watching like, maybe that wasn't supposed to happen, but still total bad guy, like really cool. But supposedly there's people backstage saying, "Oh, that looks dangerous. I'm not going to take that," and no telling who that was.
And Kurt's pretty green at this point, so he's going to jump and do his best to,
He's trying to help.
make the match look good, make his
yes.
opponent look good.
Yep, without question. So rumor has it was Hunter was one of the big ones backstage saying, "Oh, I'm not taking that." So, at that point, Taz thinks he's buried and his career in WWE is on a downward spiral, which it wasn't yet, but it became that.
So, the next month he does a squash match. He squashes, I think, Albert at No Way Out, and then at Mania he's in the Hardcore Battle Royal. So,
Right.
for a guy to get that awesome debut at the Garden, at Rumble, breaking Angle's undefeated streak,
Right.
and then to be shoved in a hardcore match at Mania, it's like, you could have given him something.
For sure.
Especially at WrestleMania 2000, which, I love it for nostalgia, but it's not the best.
It was not a great Mania
by any means.
No.
You could have thrown him with somebody and had a cool moment, like having him kill somebody, or whatever.
It surprises me too, and how much WrestleMania 2000 is kind of a swing and a miss, and the next year is like the biggest home run they would ever hit.
Yeah,
it's wild to me. It's so and to Jim Ross's point, that it's wrestler paranoia. As far as Taz thinking he got too big of a pop, it's kind of hard to argue. With exactly like what you said. But within 2 months' time,
not to go too off track, but who was missing at WrestleMania 2000?
Steve.
And
yeah, was Rock also gone?
Rock was in the main event. He was in the 4-way.
Oh, Hunter.
Nope, he was in the 4-way.
Oh, not yet. He gets injured later in 2000.
Taker.
I don't know. Oh, yes. Yes,
so,
of course.
So not having Taker and Steve, I mean, You could say
Was
the
that
injury
the,
bug got him,
was
or
that the
just
first? Was that the first Mania Taker missed?
I want to say yeah.
I feel like it was. Maybe not, but maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know.
But yeah, Taz, hell of a debut.
Yeah, super
Um,
impressive to me.
yeah. So where did I have him at 5, and you had him at 2?
I believe that is correct. Yes,
Yeah. So I mean, he made an impression on both of us. So
100%. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, and I kind of oversold that on purpose. Yeah, you didn't have him that far down on your list. You had him at number 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, awesome debut. That's one of my favorite ones to watch back. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've watched that. Just scrolling through YouTube.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That reaction was amazing.
Yes, indeed.
Are we hitting number ones or honorable mention?
Let me see here. We are going to go. We're going to go ahead and go. Honorable mention.
Okay.
That's what we got queued up. Okay, and we're gonna just fireball these. I didn't put these in any kind of ranking or any kind of order or anything. We're gonna throw them out there, rapid fire. And I will tell you, remember when we first started this, and I said my 9 and 10 spot and kind of what I'll consider the 11 spot. There was kind of a triple threat match, if you will.
Okay.
And this first honorable mention is what would have been on my number 9 or 10, but just didn't make the list for one reason or another. We've got the Radicals.
Radicals.
I mean, just so cool. I barely knew who they were. I definitely knew Eddie and Chris Benoit, but collectively, I was like, I don't really know a lot about them. But you talk about solid workers and just a really cool debut with sitting in the crowd, getting involved in the match, and then jumping, and it was just cool.
And guys who were frustrated in WCW and never got their fair shake, and yeah, it's like, oh, everyone knows these are solid, great guys, and now, oh, they're on Raw. What's happening here?
Yes.
What are they gonna do?
And that's
next?
actually good point. And that's what I liked about their debut is if you didn't know them, kind of the same. I don't remember who it was we're talking about earlier, but if you didn't know them, you knew. Oh, Taz. If you weren't familiar with his work, as soon as you see him walk out, you're like, I get it. I get the shtick. With these guys, as soon as they jump the rail, boom, they're all hitting their finishers, and you're like, okay, cool, I get it.
Business. Yeah.
Yep. So it was refreshing. Our next honorable mention, NXT debut of Shinsuke Nakamura. I appreciated the fact that, again, for those that may not have followed his career, they did a build-up package talking about how he was a king of strong style and all of his accomplishments and whatnot in Japan. Mm-hmm. And yeah, just a really cool debut.
The song.
Again,
oh my god.
100% the song. But what's really funny is watching that debut and nobody singing along because nobody knows it yet. And it was just like, oh, it's so weird. But people pop for like all the this stuff, and then when he hits the ropes and does this, like just man, massive pop.
I kept thinking like I haven't seen charisma like this since The Rock. Like this guy's just oozing it. He's awesome.
Big time.
And the match didn't even matter. Like it was the entrance. Like who did he wrestle? Sammy?
Yes, he did.
Sammy.
Yep.
Good match, great match. You got to see strong style, and Sammy's awesome. But
one of Sammy's better matches in NXT, honestly.
Sammy had some great stuff in NXT. The stuff with Cesaro, but yeah, it was awesome match. But like for Knock, that debut was. Whew.
Yep.
You hear that song and him just all the charisma through the roof. He was great.
For me, I had heard the name prior to NXT. Didn't really know anything about him. The packages for me totally helped. I was like, okay, I kind of get what he's about. And then when he's making his entrance, like you said, with all the charisma, some of the things he's doing, and now knowing what we know about him, like he's been on podcasts and talked about it, but I'm like, oh my God, Michael Jackson, like a mug.
Yeah, you didn't.
No, and so and then finally I find out. In fact, he was on Chris Jericho's podcast, and he quoted that he was a huge fan of Michael, and that was a big influence for him.
Yeah,
I'm like, called it. So
for sure,
it was cool. Next up on an honorable mention is somebody that you mentioned. I don't remember if you mentioned them off the air or during the list, but worth noting. Who would have ever thought Sting coming to
Damn.
WWE?
Yeah, that was in St. Louis also at a Survivor Series.
Oh, that's correct.
And
Yeah,
I
I
was
forgot
there
about
for
that.
that one.
You were?
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. So for me, and I really wanted to put this one on my list, to be honest. I really, really did, because this is the ultimate. Who would have ever thought? Well, maybe second to Bischoff.
Bischoff, yeah.
But those two were like neck and neck,
I was
right?
thinking the same thing.
Yeah. The only thing for me is the exact same thing as Kurt coming to TNA. So, we don't know that Sting's gonna come, but you hear caw caw, and you see like the flashes of the paint and stuff, and I'm like, I mean, you're so close. But yeah, so for me, it was just a swing and just a barely a miss, as far as getting, checking every box kind of thing. But it was so cool. Who would have thought? And also part of it too was it was like, oh, he's feuding against Hunter, of course. So that was kind of a killer for me too. And I'm a huge Hunter fan, obviously, but politics are politics.
I remember the music, the crow, the lights, him walking out. Couldn't tell you what he did. Something with the bat, I'm sure. Just beat up Triple H. But
yeah, I'm trying to think who it was. Triple H was fighting against somebody.
Maybe Rollins.
No, so it was Seth Rollins versus somebody.
Okay.
Hunter gets involved, puts Rollins on for the cover. Referee Brad Armstrong comes in for the cover, and 1, 2, go, and then and this is part of what killed it too. Like Scott Armstrong, and they're selling the fact that Scott Armstrong is in the pocket of Triple H, and so 1, 2, go, and then Scott goes to the Titantron and is like, I'm like, why would you stop?
Yeah.
So it just, there's little minutia kind of things that really just kind of, I was like, I don't want to say killed it for me, but it made it not deserve to be in a top 10 to me.
Yeah.
So
agreed.
Next up, we've got again somebody that I somewhat knew of at this time. I hope you're sitting down for this. I kind of knew of him, but he was not on my radar. But as soon as I saw him, I was like, oh, I'm gonna like this guy.
Oh yeah.
Oh, punkers, CM Punk. He did a promo version of exactly what we've been discussing with Taz walking in the ring, and you kind of understand that kind of thing. He told you about it, and then was able to back it up. So
he talks about his tattoos and like his addiction, his competition, and wrestling.
Yes, and he's straight edge.
Yeah.
Yep,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and then he goes out and goes over on Just Incredible, that first episode of ECW. Yeah, that was fun.
Yep, it was a good match too. It was a good showing for Punk.
It was good TV match.
Yeah. I mean, nothing to write home about for sure. Yeah. Next up, we've got the debut of he's so frustrated he doesn't know what to do. Edge. All he could do is scream. The poor guy. Yeah. God. And looking back, I've probably never felt worse for a guy making a debut. Like literally zero direction with the character, and they're like, "Go get him, kid! Tear it up!"
In his debut, did he come through the crowd?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, and that was immediate. And he was the first one that I ever saw do that, and that immediately set him apart. And I was like, "Wow, this is cool. This is way different."
He had that going for him.
Yeah, and the vignettes, the build up. We talked about that at the top of the show, like just that you think you know me and all this stuff, and you just see some random guy like running around what looks like New York or something, and I'm like, what is this?
The shaky camera, I did like that.
Yep, it was a cool treatment. Okay, and then moving right along before the show, we were matching up honorable mentions, and I refused to tell you any of who was on my list or in my mentions, but this is the name that you brought up, and it was a good debut, but it was crazy.
Yeah, DDP.
DDP.
So was this on your honorable mention before I mentioned it?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. His WWE debut, he's the stalker of Sarah, the Undertaker's wife, and rips the mask off, and it was just like, what? DDP? It shocked me because I was like,
wait.
Not even on my radar is a possible person.
No. Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong. You tell me what did he do after this?
They had some tag matches with Taker and Kane. Was he with Canyon? I want to say.
I think that's right. Yeah.
And then he went to the Smiley gimmick, and he did some stuff with Christian around WrestleMania 18. DDPY.
Right. I think that this storyline killed his WWE run. And I say that because the promo that he cuts on this very night, which I mean, the build up to it was very cool. It was weird. It was totally different. Stalking his wife and somebody finally playing mind games with Taker to a level that like, okay, now I'm Mark Calloway. Total next level kind of stuff. And seeing Sarah there at their house and whatnot, just it was way out of nowhere. And then the whole reveal where he takes the mask off and like the glasses, everything come off in one fell swoop, and it's like these big old eyes. There you could see. I was like blown away. But he cuts a promo and talks about like, Taker, you know why I'm coming for you? Because you're the top, and I want to get to the top. And what did you say? He's in tag matches and the smiley face game, and I'm like,
yeah,
it went literally nowhere. It did nothing for him.
I mean,
and it did nothing for Taker.
They had some fun cage matches, but I mean, during that whole invasion, like the invasion and everything, such an influx of talent. There were so many guys. I think DDP just got lost in the shuffle.
Big time. And I'm sure he was only looked through Vince's lens, if you will. Why would I push this old guy?
Yeah, we've got all this talent now, and
right.
WCW's dead, ECW's dead.
Yep. Yeah. Yep, for sure. Well, and speaking of somebody coming from WCW, way before an invasion ever happened, I loved the vignettes for this next person. I was a big mark for, I would say, the majority of this person's career. There was a few low spots, but yeah, the British Blue Blood, Hunter Hearst Helmsley. I dug him a lot. I dug kind of the different style that he brought to WWF back in the day. Everybody was doing sleepers and a big splash or a leg drop and all these. It was kind of it was turning into a snooze fest for me as I was getting older. And like he would do like the running knee and all these different things. Not that it was they're not Canadian destroyers and what we know now, but for the time that was like the next step. Yeah, I just really enjoyed the debut of Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
How did he debut?
He debuted well. So here's why
I remember the vignettes and everything, but right. I don't remember him
here's why he was an honorable mention and not on the list. I cannot for the life of me remember who it was that he went against, but it was somebody that was somebody of fame. I mean maybe NWA, WCW kind of thing, okay. But he got like a garbage man type gimmick on him. Not that it was Drosy, but it was something like that.
Yeah.
Or a Skinner, or you know what I mean, like that kind of thing. Anyways, it was this old man that looked like he wouldn't. I mean, he probably wasn't even capable of driving a semi truck, but that's what he looked like he might have done. Big old mustache, like 6 hairs on his head that were down to his shoulders. Big old beer belly, and you got the British Blue Blood, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, going against this guy, and it was just the sloppiest match. So I can't remember his name. I feel like it started with a K. He goes to Irish Whip Hunter, and like he's like instead of like taking him by the wrist, he like takes him by like the arm up here, and it's like this. Oh, are we going? Okay, and then it's really bad. It's just really sloppy.
Okay.
Yeah. So the match is what killed the debut to me, from being on the list, I should say. Coming up next on the honorable mention list, Ayo, it's the bad guy. Again, this is one with the vignettes that really worked for me. And of course, the funny story is that Razor Ramon's character is based around the Godfather, and just this drug lord and all this. And the funny part is that Vince has never seen the Godfather, doesn't know anything about it, doesn't even know what the razors represent, nothing. He just is like, hey, machismo, and he was stuck on that word machismo, and he's like, oh, it's cool, he's like just oozing machismo, and Yeah, it was all like cocaine references. Vince had no
Okay.
idea. So yeah, Reza Ramon, and just um, something about the gimmick too. Like it was a perfect mix of the Godfather, Mr. T, and just some cool dude.
Yeah. Little bit of
Um,
Scarface. I don't know.
yeah, Scarface. I'm sorry. Yeah, Scarface is the one I meant to say,
That,
not
that, that's
Godfather.
what I'm
Yeah,
thinking. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Correct. You'd never seen Scarface. You're correct. Speaking of movies,
Oh,
oh, we've got the gold one, Gold Dust, again with the perfect vignettes and stuff. And boy, are they hard to look back on. Just the face paint and stuff was a mess. The bodysuit at first was awful. There's a lot of things that are hard to see about it, but wow, I mean, I'm sure we'll have a episode about like the Attitude Era in general, and in my strong opinion, Goldust is responsible for starting the Attitude Era. Like push the limits to way new bounds. Um, like a year or 2 years before DX was even formed, like just massively moved the needle as far as controversy. So that, in my opinion, is why he deserves to be on the list.
okay.
And okay, I'll take one as a guilty pleasure. My next one, I'm a big mark for a good entrance. I'm a big mark for Macabre. I'm a big mark for Gangrel.
And see,
uh,
like I'm remembering the vignettes for Razor for Gold Dust, and I remember Gangrel's entrance, but like their actual debuts, I'm just blanking.
well, and fair. Do you know where he debuted?
Not a
Shotgun
clue.
Saturday Night.
Oh,
Yeah, aka Nowhereville.
yeah,
So that's why you don't remember it. But yeah,
yeah.
so Shane on commentary with I think it was Jerry, might have been Jim, I can't remember. But yeah, and
They
they're
just
putting
saw
over
the
the
guy, and they're like, "We got to move this guy to Raw or something." Or
basically,
Heat.
yeah. Well, basically, yeah. And yeah, and so they're talking about the viscous substance, and Shane's like, "Hey, I'd like to have some of that. That seems like a good time." And I'm like, "What?" Just
Oh
so
shit.
random. But yeah, very Lost Boys, very just a different kind of cool. Not a outsiders kind of cool, just um a sub genre kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And then you threw up some honorable mentions that you wanted to include.
Yeah, yeah, you hit a couple of mine already. Matt Hardy to AEW. Again, this is a recent one, but the stuff with Vanguard, I just thought was cool. It was memorable. We all knew he was going, and like him bouncing all over the place in the arena because of COVID and everything. But
Right.
the Vanguard coming down and landing, I just it was fun. It was memorable. So
For
like
sure.
to
And it
debut.
would have been way more memorable and possibly even on the list had there been a crowd.
Yeah,
Because that pop would
to
have
get
been
that
massive.
reaction. Yeah, and it was just something different, something memorable, and I
Mhm.
just thought that was a cool one to debut in a new company.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of like Christian, when he goes to TNA, you think, man, everybody's missed out, and now he's going to have the opportunity. Same thing, Matt. Actually, the Hardy Boys re-debut or return, excuse me,
Yeah,
at Royal Rumble in WWE, and you're like, okay, cool. We'll continue Broken Matt Hardy,
Mania.
and
That was
I'm
Mania.
sorry, Mania. Yes,
Yeah,
correct. And then that's the whole. Well, we got to go woken. We can't go broken. And it's like, well, what's the point? So then finally he's in AEW and he's back to broken Matt Hardy, and you're like, oh,
yeah.
finally, yes,
Like, he's
um,
got the broken universe. He's doing a little bit of everything. It's a
yeah,
lot of fun.
hitting all the high points. Yep,
Yeah,
but no crowd. So
yeah.
bummer. Okay, and then as you could see over your left shoulder there, you've got somebody else that you wanted to put in the list.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I said that wrong. That you wanted to put on the list more than
yeah,
once.
in this one, it's tough because Jericho. Uh, he didn't really debut in AEW, but kind of like he was there on the first show, but that's not what I'm talking about. So Jericho, obviously,
You talking about the press conference?
No. My favorite
Oh,
wrestler. This is kind of an asterisk again, so that's why I left it off the top 10 and gave honorable mention. So Jericho works with WWE for what, like 19 years on and off.
hmm
That's it in America. He did a little thing with TNA with the music, but he leaves and he starts this program with Kenny Omega in New Japan.
the painkiller.
The Painkiller.
Painmaker.
Painmaker.
Painkiller is a Judas
Yeah.
Priest song. Shout out to my metalhead friends.
But yeah, he's doing this thing in New Japan, and him and Kenny have a match at Wrestle Kingdom, and it's like, okay, this is cool. They're going to keep this feud going.
And in perfect Jericho fashion, a total remake of Jericho,
Yeah.
reinvention.
Oh, yeah, total reinvention. And the Young Bucks and Cody, they get together and they had this little show in Chicago, All In.
Yeah.
And it's not really AEW, but it's the precursor to AEW.
Yes.
And this is a show I was lucky enough to get up to Chicago for. It was insane. And Pentagon and Kenny have this killer match. After the match, the lights go dark, and they come back on, and Pentagon's still lying on the ground. He gets up, hits Kenny, takes off the mask, and it's Jericho dressed as Pentagon.
You know, that's fair. I forgot about that, but it is like so cool.
And the reaction of, I think it was 11 or 12,000 ended up being the total number of rabid wrestling fans on that special show, that special weekend.
Yes.
To me, that is Jericho's debut, if you will, in AEW, even though it's not an AEW show technically.
I would agree. And in fact, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take your asterisk and I'm going to erase it because to me, even though, yes, technically it's not AEW, he's making a debut with the same people that are going to be in the same company.
Yeah. And that's his first non-WWE show in like 19 years in North America.
Right. He'd actually gone on record as saying he will not wrestle for anybody else but WWE in North America. And then he changed his mind.
Yeah. And he did this to further the feud with Kenny so they could have a match on the Jericho Cruise. But I mean, it all leads into AEW.
Yep.
So that's why
it all funnels in the same direction. You're right.
And that was such a cool moment, seeing him rip the Pentagon mask off. And we all know, that's Jericho. We could see the tattoos.
Yes.
Like, that's awesome.
Yep.
So, really cool
did you ever watch? Speaking of that moment, did you ever watch his? Maybe it was Instagram, might have been YouTube channel. But kind of the behind the scenes of the making of that Pentagon outfit and all that.
I'm going to after this now.
You should, because as it happened, you're like, oh, it's so cool, and like it's kind of the sleight of hand kind of thing. But now once you watch that, you'd be like, oh yeah, no, this outfit looks like garbage. Like it is like Sharpie, spray paint, duct tape. Literally, it is just. I mean, it looks like garbage. Yeah. But it worked. It did what it was supposed to do.
For him to be on the ground like that and then just get up and nail him.
Oh,
it was cool.
So cool. It was so cool. Yep. Yeah. For sure. Speaking of so cool, we've got another honorable mention that you brought up. And this one, I know you were a big fan of this guy for a long time before he made his debut in NXT.
Yeah. KO.
Yeah. Good old KO, man.
Absolutely. So I loved Kevin Steen, Kevin Owens, whatever you want to call him. And his career has been tied to Sami Zayn, and seeing him as showing up on NXT and then turning on Sami, hitting that powerbomb on the ring apron, that was a cool moment. That was a cool debut for me to watch. In my opinion.
Big time. Yeah. Yep, for sure. It's almost like a modern day Taz in that. And actually, as spoiler alert, that's somebody that we didn't put on as an honorable mention that should have, is Samoa Joe to NXT. Because Samoa and both Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens, I almost said Kevin Steen, had similar entrances, debuts to Taz, where it was like just this power machine, like, you know, bad guy, tough guy, and I'm just gonna fight you, and I'm gonna, you know, have my way with you, like it or not. And both Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens check those boxes.
Yeah.
And then, you know, another one that I popped for, because I knew a little bit about him from ROH and whatnot, was Adam Cole, baby.
Yeah.
Where'd my graphic go?
So I wanted to put
There we
Adam
go.
Cole on the honorable mention also because his showing up in NXT with jumping Drew McIntyre and forming Undisputed Era, it just worked. And like there were
Yeah.
rumors about like there's going to be an ROH faction in NXT and who's it going to be, and then for Cole to show up like that, and I like think he was in the crowd the show before or
He
something.
was, yes.
But
Yep.
it was still just
And
like
they kind of
that's
did that for a
cool.
while. That was kind of
Yeah,
their formula
yeah.
for debuting.
But that was a lot of fun. I thought that was a nice one, and
Mhm.
Undisputed had to be on honorable mentions.
Fair. So for the next honorable mention, I actually want you to sell me on this because,
Oh, it's bad.
yeah, oh, big time. And I know that you're a big fan, as am I, but you're a
Yeah,
massive fan of the guy's work.
yeah.
I do not think this is worthy of a good debut whatsoever. So
Oh,
pitch it to me, brother. Yeah, we've got the debut of Daniel Bryan.
yes, yes. Brian. Yes, yes, yes. For me,
Years before, yes, yes, yes.
oh my gosh, yes. But Brian, Cole kept calling him this indie darling, and sure, whatever. He's awesome. Still think he's the best in the world. Um, he's on the list. But Brian just showing up on a WWE TV, that was a win for all the internet fans. Just seeing like, oh my god, they signed him. They're gonna put him
Internet
on
fans,
TV.
internet fans, as well as other indie wrestlers.
Oh
Like, hey,
yeah,
there's a chance. It's
and you look at him, and I'm sure like through Vince's lens, he's like him, that
right.
guy.
This little kid, yeah,
He doesn't even eat meat, and yeah, like just being terrible. But there's something about the guy that everyone loves, and you
yeah.
can't.
Well, when he debuts, I mean, just this clean cut babyface look,
Yeah,
the smile, everything.
and
Which
I
Daniel
just
has gone back and forth with having hair, not having hair,
yeah,
having
oh
a
yeah.
beard, not having a beard. But yeah, he's almost like too clean cut to get over with the WWE audience.
But for the everyone who's watching, seeing like Brian's on. Wait, he's
Right.
the Miz's rookie. Like
Right.
that should be backwards. And I think people
100%.
people
Yes. From the
backstage
real
were
world
like,
to a coach? No.
yeah, I'm
Not
pretty sure
yet.
people backstage were ribbing Miz about it. Like, how did this happen?
Right.
Um,
And
but
hey, kudos to Miz. I don't know, but I'm going with it.
yeah, but it's just one of those things where just him showing up on the TV, that was enough to be like, oh my god, Brian's on TV. It's not an amazing debut. I'll give you that. But it is one of those moments where anyone who followed this guy, who was invested in him, got excited and we're like, I got to tune in and watch this because it's our guy finally getting to WWE.
Right.
And
100%. And he's representing, like you said, all the indie fans across the world, not even just in the United States. I mean, Daniel Bryan, whatever you want to call
you
him.
could call him Brian
Um,
Danielson. He's American
right.
Dragon.
There you go. Made a name for himself in ROH and over in Japan, and just like he was an indie darling. Michael Cole said it tongue in cheek and trying to downplay it, but he really was.
Yeah, and he was having the best matches in the world for 4, maybe 5 years before he signed with E. And
Right.
the dude was awesome. But
Yep.
there's something special about him, and having him get to showcase it on WWE TV, like, it's one of those things. Just him being on the screen was a win at the time, and him just going on to headline WrestleMania 30, it just shows like, hey, if enough people get behind a guy, anything can happen. So
Yeah.
it's just cool.
Yep. For sure.
But I know when you saw that, you were like, what?
Oh yeah. I'm like, dude. Daniel, good. Debut, bad.
Yeah. But for anybody who was following him for those years, that was just enough to see him like in that backstage segment, like NXT. And you're like, oh my god, here he is.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Yep. For sure. It's also a shame that he had a debut on the NXT that he did, not what we know NXT to be now. It was
all
more like
worked out.
American Gladiators crap kind of stuff. It's
I
just
mean,
awful.
But it all worked out because like you had that whole Nexus thing, and you think, oh, this is gonna be cool, and then he has to go away for a little while. We got
Right.
some great matches on the Indies out of that, and then the way they brought him back at SummerSlam for that like 5-on-5 against the Nexus as the mystery guy is perfect.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. Okay. Well, that concludes the honorable mention section. So,
just
here
as
we
long
go.
as the 10 through 2.
I told you. I told you it would be. Before we unveil our number ones, I wanted to take a second to say, be sure to like us and subscribe and all the good stuff here on YouTube. You know, like this. There you go. That's how you do it. Okay. Well, John, we are here at the number one spot. It should come as no surprise who I think you got on your number one.
I'm wondering if he's on your number one.
I don't know, man.
I don't know. But for me, yeah, it's Chris Jericho showing up in WWE.
I missed it. I missed it.
There was no one else. Like, it had to be him. So
it had to be him.
Yeah, August 9th, 1999. That countdown, that mysterious countdown clock that you'd seen for weeks, was finally going to count down to 0 in Chicago. Super hot crowd. And wouldn't you know it, it's going to count down to 0 with The Rock in the ring.
Yeah, and you talk about timing, like the timing of that just worked perfectly. And I would love to hear more of the story behind getting the timing, if it was how accurate it actually was, that kind of thing. But yeah, here's your countdown clock. It started actually. I've got notes about this. It started somewhere around the 671 hours, 9 minutes, and 57 seconds, which, if you do the calculation on, is almost exactly 28 days, aka 4 weeks worth of TV time to kind of hype this up.
Yeah.
So again, long-term, really good storytelling from WWE. So on the countdown clock here, talk about. Do you know? Tell us the backstory to this and how this came to be.
What I remember is Jericho was at a post office and he saw a countdown to the millennium as we were counting down to the year 2000 in 1999. And Jericho said, "What a cool way to debut! Hey, I'm debuting in a couple weeks. Maybe that should be how I do it." Yeah,
100%. Yep.
So that's how I remember the story going.
That is correct. Yeah. Yep. At a post office. And you know, that was a weird time to be in. Everybody thought the world was basically gonna like shut down, but shut down.
It wasn't Y2K. It was Y2J.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y2J. No. Yes. So let's see here.
Yeah.
Just the yeah, and I'll go ahead. I'll advance this. So
and I thought that was the coolest shirt ever.
Dude, he looks like $1 million. He really did.
Oh
the shiny shirt, the leather pants, the cheap eat with the hair. That worked for me. Yeah. So hitting the fast forward button here. My number one pick is Chris Jericho.
And I was worried you were going to put him on honorable mention at one point during this. The Titantron. Yeah, the Titantron where it just flashed up with Jericho and everybody knew. Oh, so
that is
cool.
the reason this is number one. So I've tried to kind of plant seeds that the storytelling, the vignettes, all the build up is what makes it so great. The elements of surprise, I put that as number one for a reason. So
you knew it was going to be something.
I knew it was going to be something big. I didn't know it was going to even be. Nobody really even knew it was going to be the debut of a person. Because it was just a thing. It was just a countdown. The
Millennium Clock's going.
Right. And I kind of knew prior to this, like, you know, Chris Jericho was in WCW, Cruiserweight, the Lion Tamer, period. That's really about all I knew. And so I was not somebody who was like, oh, I wonder if it's Chris. No, like, next to nobody was. And, you know, anybody that says otherwise is probably lying.
There were signs for Jericho in the crowd.
There were.
Some people knew. I was not one of them.
Right. Smart marks back then, if you will, were nowhere near as common as they are now. Internet was just getting started with, you know, dirt sheets going online, etc. So yeah, so not only the countdown clock was a big part, the pyro, man, you talk about the treatment. Like it still blows my mind, no pun intended, that somebody coming from WCW, first of all, not getting buried, second of all, from the cruiserweight division and going to the land of the giants where Vince is all about size, and he's going to give him this much treatment. It blows my mind.
And I did think they kind of buried him on this way out of WCW. Like they not buried him, but like he had a.
They didn't do him
streak.
any favors.
No, no, sir. Jericho did business on the way out. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, like the pyro and like the countdown and all this and the do all the weird lights, I will tell you right now, at this point in my fandom, I was the biggest fan of The Rock, and I cannot tell you. I was just talking about this the other day to Anthony. That I cannot tell you how I literally probably wore out the VHS tape because I had recorded this night because it was, like we're counting down, and it's not like I knew, okay, it's going to be during The Rock, but I kind of knew it was going to be in the show because they're showing it, throughout the show. And so I recorded it, and I was a big mark for The Rock. I don't even have my sunglasses next to me, but I can tell you that I had my back turned, like if this is a TV behind me, had my back turned, and I was like telling you every little thing, turn that size 13 boot. Everything about his cadence and stuff. I knew everything about this promo verbatim from both guys. So Rock's out here cutting his promo against the Big Show. All of a sudden, the countdown starts, bloop, 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 and the lights go out. And then, like the biggest pyro literally on purpose, the biggest pyro, which, again, just boggles my mind.
Yeah, and how cool was his music back then?
It was, right? It really was. Yeah. Lyrically, it made no sense, but it was still cool. But yeah, so then all of a sudden, and all these weird little, like a stripper on a pole, and just like a New York skyline, kind of all this stuff, real fast, and all of a sudden, break the walls down, and then bam, there's Jericho, and it flips down, and like I've literally got goosebumps right now just talking about it, and like then he's all with arms extended, and just oh my god. I mean, I still have goosebumps. Like, it is the moment. It is the moment of Chris Jericho's career. He's done so much great stuff. He probably would tell you the same thing. As soon as this happens, he knows nothing else is going to top this. Like,
there's parts of this he really hates. He likes the debut, but looking back, I think he said something like he hates the stupid faces he was making during it.
I like that because
it shows he's
at
angry.
The time, I'm like, all this stuff, I'm like, that's weird. What is he doing? But I'm like, I kind of hate it. So it worked.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, here's what I hated about this. If you want to call it hated something, it wouldn't be the facials. It would be the long promo. Like, granted, to the smart marks, it's a great promo because he's talking about how the buy rates are down for WWE.
Yeah.
All this stuff. And like, all this is like flying over in 1999, that's flying over my head. I'm like, what is he talking about? Pay-per-view buy rates and something spiraling down. Like, I'm like, what is he talking about?
I got the gist. Like ratings, cool.
right. But yeah, some of the stuff like he talked about he was here to save us, or to save the WWF.
I was like, cool, let's go.
The Ayatollah of rock and roll, and I'm like, oh, okay, I like rock. That's cool.
It sounds cool.
Right, exactly. So as far as there's a term and now I'm blanking, but anyway, he had the talking part down perfectly for this. So yeah.
And to go back and forth with, like, he went a while, but then for the exchange between The Rock, them going back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like, okay, this guy can hang, and this guy's awesome, and The Rock was like, he got all the Rock lines in too, so it was fun. It was great.
Yeah, for sure. This is also one of my first time remembering, like, kind of getting the bigger picture of things, if you will, where, oops, I did the wrong one, where it's this back and forth, it's a debut, and you would think that being a debut, Jericho's going to get the last word, but it was like kind of an aha moment for me whenever Rock's getting all of his stuff in that's been over, and like you said, just the face at the end, like this weird mouth, lip, chin stuff that Jericho's
it's like,
doing.
Well,
but he doesn't say
he's going to get
anything.
him back later at some point.
Exactly. And so then that was my first aha moment to, I get why some people have the last word and why they don't. So again, man, just a massively amazing debut. I don't and bold statement, but I don't know that anybody will ever be able to top this off. If for nothing else, the fact that it's so hard to keep a secret nowadays with the internet and all that kind of stuff. This was just, I mean, absolute, pun intended, perfect timing.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, both had number one. That makes me happy.
Yes, indeed. Your man made it to number one, and obviously, as years progressed, I was not a fan of his work in the ring, and we could talk about that sometime. I mean, if nothing else will get ratings, it'll be me, dishing out heat to the most over guy in all of wrestling right now. But
yes,
but yeah, so
the million viewer man,
the demo god himself,
oh
the
yeah,
champion.
a little bit of bubbly. He's the best.
A little bit of that guy. All right. Well, yeah,
it was fun.
Good stuff, man. I think that both of us had a respectable list. The Paige choice on your list still kind of throws me, but like I said, she is worthy. I just don't know if she's worthy of top 10, but I get it. So
yeah, but yeah, throw it in the comments if we left anybody off. Cena Angle or Cena's debut. We didn't talk about that. Should that have been up higher?
Right.
Yeah,
there's definitely debuts that we still haven't even discussed. Diesel was another one. I mean, there's been a lot of great first. Ted DiBiase, you talk about some of the amazing vignettes building up the character and stuff. So yeah,
throw it in comments. Let us know.
All right. Well, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Recliner Wrestling Review, the top 10 debuts of all time. So stay tuned next week. That's going to do it for this episode. So we will see you on the next one. John, thank you again for joining us. And we will see you soon.